All right, welcome back to the Dungeon of Doom podcast. We are back after a much-needed little breather week here for the M Lives Lions beat writer crew. I am Ben Raven, joined as always by Kory Woods over there.
What up, though? I'm refreshed.
I know, right? We needed it. We were about to do the podcast last week. Kory had some time off, and I was like, "Take your time off. Don't come back. We'll come back. We got a nice timing to preview the combine, go through our first mock drafts. Everybody give Kory a round of applause. He completed his first mock draft and got that up today.
Thank you. That was, from my time covering the team, I've always just kind of like mocked, who I thought the Lions would grab, with the position whether they would trade back or this, that, and the other. But I've never gone through all 32 picks for the first round. So that was pretty fun and intensive, and that is not something that you can just do in an hour or two. That took some time.
Yeah, no, we were thinking about recording yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I know this is Kory's first mock draft. I remember my first mock draft. Let's reconvene Friday morning.
Thank you.
But no, it is. Love them or hate them as readers of mock drafts. I mean, they are educational for us. It is literally hands-on, thinking about other teams, thinking about the prospects, thinking about what might happen around the Lions picks, and just seeing how the board might fall. Like, that's what I was telling you. I was like, pick for teams like you would pick for those teams if you were covering them. And then when you get to the Lions, I mean, the Lions at pick 28, that's still a new thing for me too. My first 3 or 4 years on the beat, it was like 2, 5, whatever, it's a different world back there. Yeah. What'd you take from that experience? Yeah, exactly. What did you learn from that experience before we dive into it? We're not going to go pick for pick, but we're going to compare some things.
Well, first thing, I just want to let everybody know I have to be on location today. So I'm at a coffee shop. So if you hear any type of background noise, apologies in advance, but we're right now, it looks like we're pretty good. So let's hope we stay that way. But just to go ahead and get into what I learned from that experience, it was exactly what you said. At first, I was thinking like, okay, do I pick who I like, who I'm just, do I go with, which is what I think should happen? But then you said something real key right there. Pick as if you were covering that team and what you thought that team would need in that spot. So by me taking on that mindset without even, it's just so funny that you brought it up, me taking on that mindset, that just changed how I looked at each pick, how I researched what they needed, what would make the most sense here and there, what would be the proper time to take a reach on a pick. So that was the process that went into it. And it was actually pretty fun, but it was also like, you cannot but I don't want to say that actual word, but you cannot have go it on making those things. You really have to take your time and do some research and kind of cross-reference some videos and some scouting reports. And again, I like the process. Curious to see what the next one will be like when it's time.
Yeah, exactly, because we are headed to the NFL Combine in a couple of days. It's Friday, the morning of the February 21st right now, where I got my Butler hat on because we're going down to Indianapolis on Monday. So yeah, we're gonna speak with hundreds of the prospects down there, get a feel, watch some of the testing, and most importantly, on Tuesday we're gonna hear from. I think it's gonna be Tuesday. We're probably going to hear from a lot of Lions peoples, new coaches, new coordinators. So, yeah, I know. I also have a grad class that night at 7 p.m. So, woo! Yeah, I know. I'm going to have 2 class. I cannot wait to be done with this master's program. I'm going to be taking 2 classes down in Indianapolis.
And you know what? What you just said just dawned on me like, oh, crap. I am missing class because of this. So I need to shoot my teacher an email and be like, hey, don't talk to the school official just yet.
Yeah, right.
Because it's only so many days you can miss.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's where I'm lucky. Online, I'll just be in my hotel room, sad and busy and tired. But
yeah,
God, yeah. I can't wait till we're done with these programs, man. Let's get into it. Our mock drafts, as I was saying off air, we are perfectly similar, perfectly different in all the right areas. We each mocked someone else to the Lions. Like I said, we're not going to go through each pick and other teams and like that. We understand that you're here for the Lions, but like, It's February 21st. We figure you, the listener, needs to get a little refreshed on what we're thinking about the NFL draft anyway. I went no quarterbacks for my first 2 picks. You went Cam Ward and then Sanders 1 and 2. Just tell me why the quarterbacks? Why not? And then I'll offer why I went with Travis Hunter 1 and Abdul Carter number 2.
Well, first off, I looked at Tennessee. You got a first-year head coach in Brian Callahan, offensive mind, and just simply put, the Will Levis experiment did not work. Right. And I did not just envision a good scenario where you're inheriting, when you're an offensive, guru, you inherit a quarterback that is not yours, and you're kind of tasked with fixing him in year one. It's kind of like almost that first year is a wash, especially when you just see what he's done over the past couple of seasons. So I'm thinking like right here, Tennessee has something they rarely have a chance to do, and that is pick their franchise QB right here. And I just thought that Cam Ward just made all the sense in the world, and kind of similar, but in a different scenario with Cleveland. The Deshaun Watson experiment, I think we can all just agree that was just a failure on and off the field. So I just think with them, hey, you need to galvanize this fan base. At some point, you're either going to part ways with Watson and have to eat that money anyway. Why not go ahead and get a guy that is probably arguably the second best quarterback on the board? Yeah. You can sell it to the fan base, galvanize everybody around the pick, and just start fresh. That was just my line of thinking right there.
No, that's fair. I went Hunter number 1 to Tennessee just because I think he's a unicorn, and I think they're a little further away than just a quarterback. And when quarterback years like this, like I don't not like Cam Ward, and I don't not like Sanders, but like I don't know. I view Hunter and Carter are just like head and shoulders above everyone else. And I look at the Browns and I'm like, if you're about to lose Myles Garrett, you know what? Go get Abdul Carter. And even if you don't lose Myles Garrett, at least you're able to pair him with a freak and maybe get him perked up and wanting to stay around. But yeah, I like that. I had Sanders as my first quarterback off the board to the Giants. I think he's perfect for the New York market. I think he'd be able to handle it. And I really do look at Sanders as my quarterback 1, but let's get out of there. I know you guys don't care a ton about that. Let's see here. The Patriots, you had Carter with the Patriots. I had the first offensive lineman on the board there, Will Campbell. I believe we each had, Michigan's Mason Graham at number 5 to the Jaguars. That just seems like an awesome fit. Yeah, Graham's a freak, man. Yeah, like the pairing with Walker and Hines Allen, like that's how you build a true strength, not just on your team, but like in that division, which is like seemingly almost always up for grabs. Like that's a great pick there. I did have Ward to the Raiders at 6. You had our first wide receiver off the board at 6. McMillan out of Arizona. Love that pick. He's a freak, man.
Yeah, I mean, right now they don't, you don't know who they're going to have under center. And regardless of whoever they have, I mean, you got a big-bodied guy like McMillan out there. He's going to be an asset for whoever they get at quarterback for years to come.
Yeah. Here's one people might care about. Number 7, the New York Jets, old friend Aaron Glenn. I had Michigan's Will Johnson. I love that we both sent a cornerback to Aaron Glenn. We're like, it don't matter. He's got Sauce Gardner. That man's going to build his defense with a cornerback. Like, are you kidding me? You got Jahdae Barron from Texas. That's a great pick. I'm high on Will Johnson. I think Will Johnson's got that. I think Will Johnson's got a little something special in him. Pairing him with Sauce Gardner, I mean, that would be not just a ball hawking, but like every time those guys get the ball in their hand, like watch out. So like, they need a quarterback too. They need a lot in New York, but like Aaron Glenn, man,
he's going defense. It just makes the most. It just makes the most sense. It's like, okay, what better way for a defensive mind to make his stamp than picking the position where he was a dog at?
Yep, exactly. Each had a receiver at number 8. You had Burden. I had McMillan. The Saints, you had James Pierce, great edge rusher from Tennessee. Man, it'd be sweet if he could fall into the 20s, trade up and get him, a.k.a. for the Lions. He's a freak, man. I had the Penn State tight end at number 9, Tyler Warren. Man, he's just like that's a freak. They got they're in cap hell for the next couple of years. So get a guy that you know is going to be a guy. So. Oh, God, I love what you did. Ben Johnson's Chicago Bears at number 10. Go.
Yeah, it just made sense to me. I mean, you come off of coaching Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. We don't know if DeAndre Swift is going to be a cap casualty or not, but I mean, whether you bring it back or not, I mean, I think they need more than just one piece on that offensive line. So I'm thinking like right now, swinging and taking a talent like Ashton, get him, build the trenches down the line.
No, I know. I love Ashton Genty with the Chicago Bears at number 10 for you. I mean, like you said, we saw what Ben Johnson does with freak running backs, and like this is a good running back class. And Genty's like the no doubt number one. Like, holy crap, this is the best running back prospect I think I've seen since Robinson McCaffrey. Like, seriously, this guy looks like he's going to be the real deal. And I went with offensive line for Chicago. Like, we're thinking similar. Ben Johnson knows what he needs to make his offense work. It's just all about, shoot, do I want somebody I can give the ball to 25 times a game different ways, or do I need somebody that can fill a hole at tackle or maybe at guard? I had Kelvin Banks there. We'll see what happens there. I had Genty a couple picks later to the Dallas Cowboys. I just love that fit. They need some freaking life on that roster, man. Like that's like I don't understand. Like, you and I are of a similar age. Like, it's so weird to see what the Cowboys are now and have been. I mean, when I sit in that little side room with like Nolan and Colton and I'm like, the Cowboys used to be the Yankees when I was growing up, man.
Yeah, it's like they were a brand name. Now they're a laughing stock. It's quite a fall from grace.
No doubt it is. You had Michigan's Kenneth Grant to the Miami Dolphins at number 13. Just this defense, we'll get into more of this later when we shift to the combine talk, but this defensive line interior edge rusher class is absolutely ridiculous this year. I mean, the fact that, dude, Grant at 13, and I think I got Grant at 16 or 17. I mean, this should be like a top 10 pick any other year, I feel like seriously.
Yeah, I think at that point in the draft, whoever gets Grant after 11, 12-ish, it's a steal.
Yeah. We had another Michigan guy. A lot of Michigan guys in this first round, man. So props to them. This is not the blue wall speaking. These are legit.
No, they're legit.
Yeah, we had Colston Loveland both going to the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw the Colts this year. I mean, their tight ends were atrocious. Basically lost them that game against the Lions in the most boring game I've ever attended in person. So, yeah, I mean, they really do need something. I think Loveland's kind of like route running abilities, catch ability. Like, that's good for Anthony Richardson. Get yourself a safety valve. That would be great there. Let's see here. Let's find some. Yeah, James Pierce at 15 for me. You had Michael Williams at 15. That's another edge rusher off the board. I got guard Tyler Booker off the board at 16. That's like for the Lions, I think we're all in agreement that we're looking at edge rushers, defensive linemen, and interior offensive linemen in the first round, at least starting right now. So those guys coming off the board are worth mentioning. Yeah, Mike Green, the Marshall edge defender that led the nation with 17-some sacks. We both got him as the top 20 pick. Jalon Walker, linebacker, edge, it don't matter. That's a top 20 pick. We both had him in the top 20. This is where we'll kind of go pick by pick because, like, Brad Holmes has traded up. He's traded down before. We're at number 20 now. We both had Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka. Like, he's like tailor-made for Sean Payton's offense. And, like, if you're the Broncos, you got to maximize Bo Nix. I mean, I know you should probably get defense to stop Patrick Mahomes, but, like, maximize that offense, man. I
mean, he had a rookie of the year-esque campaign. And, I mean, just reward the guy. Get him a true playmaker out there that can just terrorize defenses and be somebody that he can build a connection with for years to come. It just makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, we both had receivers at number 21 for the Steelers. I had Burden out of Missouri. You had Matthew Golden. I think we're both in agreement. They need a different flavor in that passing attack. They need a quarterback too, but like you're not getting a quarterback at number 21 in this year's draft. Like, and that's the interesting discussion to the quarterbacks too, is like there could be some veteran names available quarterbacks. I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers, you got Sam Darnold. Kelly Stafford's trying to throw her weight around and get as much attention to get Matthew out of LA once again. So we'll see what happens there. She loves the spotlight, man. She can't help herself.
I'm leaving that alone. I got called out on the podcast once before. I'm leaving it alone.
I don't give a crap about that. She does it to herself. Number 22, we both had edge rushers from the SEC. Shamar Stewart. Oh, man. Shamar's the one to watch for the Lions if he falls or if they fall in love with him and want to move up the bar. Like, yeah, like we both noted, his production's not there. The consistency's not there, but like he looks like an NFL pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
He moves like an NFL pass rusher. So like that's someone at the combine too. If he runs well, if he talks well, if he impresses those interviews, that's someone's name you're going to hear. Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. Yeah, both had cornerbacks for the Green Bay Packers. You know, if Jair Alexander's out of town, they should probably look for a wide receiver too, but like they do this every single freaking year, you know. They just throw blue chippers at that defense, and I mean that's why they have such a low floor of how far they can fall. You did Will Johnson, I did Jahdae Barron. We just did a little pick swap there between us. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty much just like, you know, one of those guys is going to go in one of those two spots. It's just a matter of who goes first. So I think we're, like I said, both in agreement that, you know, Green Bay takes a cornerback there. It just makes the most sense.
It does. And there's some good ones available in this draft because of all the defensive linemen. And another defensive lineman that I've just started to kind of research is Walter Nolan, who we both had to the Minnesota Vikings at 24. A 300-pounder with 6.5 sacks. Like, I want to know more. I want to know more about this man.
And then, you know, he's also respectable against the run as well. I mean, you know, you got an NFC North that's probably going to be pretty filled with a lot of great backs. I mean, you want to go ahead and get somebody that is, you know, at least great at that and very solid in the other direction as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's going to be defense for Minnesota no matter what. I mean, they've got to re-sign their like entire secondary, but like I think that their defensive line needs a little more. Like Dallas Turner had an up and down rookie year. Get a big presence in the middle of that line. Like you said, there's Gibbs, there's Montgomery, Chicago. If they get Genty, or even if they don't get Genty, like that team's going to run the ball with Ben Johnson. So like, you need to be able to crush the pocket from the middle, and you need to be able to stop the run. So yeah, we're definitely thinking there. Both 25, you had an offensive lineman of the Texans. I had a defensive lineman, Derek Harmon, the former Michigan State transfer. We both had your guy, Jihad Campbell, number 26 to Los Angeles Rams. As a first-time mock drafter, did it hurt taking Campbell off the board before you got to the Lions pick?
I would say, yeah, but again, as you said, I had to draft on what I thought made the most sense. And it's like, just because I think this is a guy that would be a steal for the Lions and I'm high on him, that doesn't mean I can rework my drafting to make it happen. It just didn't make sense. So I mean, it just like for what the Rams need, they already have two guys good on the edge. But just being able to add another guy that can stand up and play on and off the ball. I mean, just how can you pass up on a guy that's arguably the top at his position in the draft?
No, Jihad Campbell, I know people probably don't want to hear about a linebacker, but like, man, he is so much more than a position. So much more than a position. I mean, that's a playmaker. I don't know. Depending on what happens with Derek Barnes, depending on how they feel about their linebackers.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going. Why I was so high on it, because it's like, what happens with Derek Barnes? Do you, if he's out the door, you got to get a replacement. And this guy, like you said, he's so versatile.
Yeah. I feel like he could do anything. I feel like he could play in the middle. I feel like he could play Sam. He's a former pass rusher, and he is. Gosh, I love watching his highlights. I love watching his clips.
He's nasty.
Seeing anything I can see about him. You jumped on him early. You said his name first on this podcast back in November, and I'm with you. He's a fit if he's there. I know people don't want to hear about a linebacker in the first round again, but man, that's a good football player. All right, number 27. I had the Baltimore Ravens going Georgia safety Malachi Starks. You had the Ravens taking my guy for the Lions, Donovan Ezaraku. There we go. Got it, from Boston College. All right, let's talk about pick 27, what we think could happen there, because that is the one before we get to our Lions pick. Why'd you go with the edge rusher?
I mean, the Ravens are solid at safety. They could be better, but again, I've just seen this team continue to always add solid edge rushers, solid linebackers, and just being able to get a guy like this who, I mean, 16.5 sacks, that's it all. And this guy knows how to get at the quarterback. It's just such a Ravens pick to draft a player that has a dominant ceiling.
Absolutely. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I had Starks there just because what's going on with Marcus Williams? And like, I feel like Starks is like a great compliment with Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, Ezeraku, that's a Ravens pick. That is definitely type of their flavor. And I'll just segue into that because at number 28, I had the Detroit Lions taking Boston College edge rusher Donovan Ezeraku, the reigning ACC Defensive Player of the Year. Like you said, 16 and a half. Yeah, 16 and a half sacks in 12 games with 21 tackles for loss. You know, and he wasn't just a one-hit wonder either. I mean, this was the second team All-ACC guy a couple years ago. 26 tackles for loss, 13 and a half sacks across his first 3 seasons there. Man, he's so long, 34 and a half wingspan. And like, sometimes you can't notice a wingspan just by watching like highlights or anything like that. But when you watch tape on this guy, he's like Stretch Armstrong. Like, not only does he have some great pass rush moves and a high motor, but like he has a closing ability, like turning pressures into sacks. He turns his pressures into sacks. And even though he's not like the bulked up edge defender that the Lions have always favored, there's nothing wrong with a little flavor. I mean, we're going into multiple seasons of talking about the pass rush needing more here. And I just look at
yes, absolutely.
Production, traits, and the fact that he took his game to another level while playing for like an NFL heavy staff at Boston College. I mean, just checks a lot of boxes for me. And you also had an edge defender. Talk to me about the Prince.
Oh, gotta go with Prince. I keep messing his name up. Meanly? I'm just gonna call him Prince. We're gonna stick right there. But
Ole Miss,
I mean, again, as we just said, this guy, the Lions have been needing another edge rusher opposite Aiden Hutchinson. We've been talking about that. This guy has been in the top 10 in sacks over the past 2 seasons in the SEC, whether it was at Florida or at Ole Miss. 10 and a half sacks this past year. Was a Ted Hendricks finalist for top defensive end. And the guy just has a high motor, knows how to get to the ball. And the reason I went ahead and, I would say you could argue it's a little bit of a reach for him because if you look at a lot of mock drafts, they have him projected as an early to mid second rounder guy. But, Pro Football Focus, if you just look at this, he has a high pass rush grade. And, the Lions have always have been really solid against the run issue, but they need a guy that can really get after the quarterback, and that is his stock and trade. And I'm just of the opinion that if he has a good showing at the combine, his stock is going to rise. And one thing that we've known from this regime under Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell is that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell is that if they see that a guy fits their culture that looks like a Detroit Lion, they're not going to waste time. They're going to go ahead and grab him, and he's not going to be there when they try to pick again later on. So I just think this would be the perfect time to go ahead and reach a little bit and grab a guy like that.
Yeah, he's kind of like the perfect pairing of what they look for. I mean, he's got the size. I mean, he's not overly bulked up, but he's not lean. You can't call him lean. Like, that's a big dude. And yeah, 22.8% pass rush win rate, man. You're winning 23% of your pass rush reps. Like, yeah. So that would fit. I got no qualms with that. Like I said, they need an edge rusher. They need defensive line help. Let's go through our second options before we talk about the combine a little. I was thinking Nick Scourton. The Texas A&M dude. Like, I was thinking him as my second option just because he is the mold. I mean, 6'4", 280, led the Big Ten in sacks with Purdue 2 years ago. Didn't get the sack numbers this year, but like, man, he's 20 years old, and he just kind of keeps getting better. Who was your second option for the Lions there instead of Princely?
I had a couple, and both of them from Ohio State, but the guy I kind of thought they would probably lean more with would be a guy like Jack Sawyer. Just, again, nose for the ball, freak athlete, high IQ, and has that bit of a team leader vibe. Who knows how that might work with him and Hutch. That might be some fun, some fun times in the locker room. But all jokes aside, I just you know, and JT, same thing there. But I just felt like I would probably kind of lean more with Jack, just off of the swagger that I've seen him carry on the field. It's not more so for me like all about me, but just like you need guys that have a little bit of rough around the edges to him. And I feel that Jack has that, but more on top of that, he makes plays.
Yeah. You mentioned Ohio State. We'll briefly touch on this topic. New defensive coordinator for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Crazy sentence for me to say out loud. Is ex-Lions head coach Matt Patricia. I saw that come through late afternoon. I wrote that story before jumping into class last night, and I was just like, this is crazy to be writing for me. Like, we'll see how it goes, but like, man, people in Ann Arbor late November ain't gonna have no problem booing him.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I'm like, yeah, like I guess I can wink, wonder what his reception is going to be like when he comes to Ann Arbor.
Unbelievable.
You thought Ryan Day was getting booed. Boy, Ryan Day, that might be the one time you have a day off.
Yeah, Matt P might want to stay in the booth for that game. Both those mock drafts, both mine and Kory's. Kory's went up today. Today's Friday. Mine went up on Thursday. Those are at mlive.com/Lions. And also, we have something new to pitch. You know, we've been thinking about new ideas for the mailbag, new ideas to feature fan voices and listeners of the show on this show. And it's live, and we're going to start using it here soon. Obviously, we're busy next week, and we'll have enough to talk about without needing a mailbag. But, like, mailbags are coming. It's the off season. So write this down. And I'm sure we can probably put something on the screen for the MLive YouTube watchers. But we have a Dungeon of Doom inbox. You can send voice messages. You can send text messages. You can send emails, instead of text messages. But, like, those can be mailbag questions. Even when we're not doing a mailbag question, feel free to send us something. Feel free to send us what you think of the show. Feel free to send us an idea. Feel free to send us something you want to talk about. And here's that address. It's simple. Dungeon of Doom. One word, no spaces. Dungeon of Doom at mlive.com. So reach on out to that. Our awesome producer, Patrick, helped us bring that to life. That was kind of one of those ideas we had kicking around when we launched the show. I'm thrilled to see it come to life. And I challenge you guys, use the voice memo. Use it for good. Don't be mean. I'm not saying don't be critical, but like, take it easy.
I am so happy that we have that. I can now put that on my social media because so many of my friends pepper me with questions on Facebook, Instagram. And I'm like, you know what? Send it to the mailbag.
Exactly. And
send it to the mailbag. Make it content.
That's right. Exactly. Help us out. Help us help you out. So that's Dungeon of Doom at mlive.com. Use it. Let's go. I'll make sure to put it on my profiles too. And it's Friday, Kory. We're heading to Indianapolis on Monday. Got a big week ahead. Starting the week with Lions news and then closing the week out with a look at prospects and all that. I think we made it pretty clear. We're looking at the defensive side of the ball, but I am also curious to look into interior offensive linemen, figure those guys out. And also, man, I think it could be an intriguing potential wide receiver draft for these Lions too. Tim Patrick's a free agent. Allen Robinson's a free agent. Whether they bring those guys back or not, I think they could really use some depth and some youth at that position, like to build on. I mean, unfortunately for Antoine Green, the injury really, we haven't heard anything since his injury. You know, he's still on the injured reserve list and stuff like that. But like, they need a little youth infusion at that receiver spot. And I don't think it'll be the 7th round. I think they should take a little risk a little earlier in the draft. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. What do you think?
No, I'm actually on the same line of thinking as you. One guy that I had in mind just from looking at him was Nick Nash. I mean, I was high on him during the season when I was doing my weekly draft, my weekly who to watch, and the guy just continued to produce. I mean, he fits that big body mold where he can just an absolute playmaker, and he's a guy I think that could probably take a swing. Well, I don't know how early he will come off the board. Maybe when we do our, maybe I'll do another full mock and then kind of get an idea of, okay, where is he landing at? But he's a guy I was looking at, I believe Rashad Owens. There's a couple of guys out there that they can go ahead and get to add to this receiving corps. But I do believe that, no disrespect to Tim Patrick, I think they need to still bring him back. But they drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown. They They drafted him in the 4th round. They drafted Jameson in the 1st. First and 4th, still pretty up there. I think they need to go ahead and take another one of those swings and get a guy between those first 3 rounds, maybe a late 4th if somebody can see somebody falling, because they need to add another wide receiver they can develop and be part of this homegrown talent. Because again, are you bringing Jameson Williams back after everything is all said and done? Who knows? I think you need to go out there and add another playmaker.
Yeah, and I think with JMO, I wouldn't be surprised if like both sides wait until it's absolutely time to make a decision there, whether the 5th-year option or an extension. Like that's just a situation where both sides are probably best suited to wait how things continue to go. But yeah, I'm with you, man, because I know Brad loves his developmental dart throw picks, but like the roster's getting tighter. There's less spots, man. You need to be taking guys that are going to contribute, because like, this last draft class, I mean, I'm not saying it was a bad draft class, but I'm just saying it was the least productive that we've seen. And those spots are running thin, and you don't want to take developmental guys that are never going to amount to nothing. Look at the Eagles, their draft picks producing, their draft picks helping them win Super Bowls. Like, not saying that the Lions have not drafted well. They've drafted better than most since Brad got here. But I think it's just time that we see a little tweak to the process, and a 2nd or 3rd round wide receiver might be not on the top of people's minds. But get someone who can contribute, get someone who can play, get someone who makes you better. Not thinking like, oh, this guy's going to be sick down the road in 3 years. Like, get guys from now. Like, I that is the one change I want to see happen here. But yeah.
I mean, it's there it is, because with the wide receiver, losing Josh Reynolds, and I said this when people are all on him about the drop passes in the NFC Championship, that is about 600-700 yards and 6 touchdowns walking out the door. That's not easy to replace in the wide receiver 3 role. And again, all respect to Tim Patrick, him and Jared Goff found their groove throughout the season. But as you see, there was a little bit of a curve to begin with. And I mean, hey, we thought that DPJ was going to step up and take over that role. Things didn't happen. So I just think this is now the time to go ahead. Goff is still young. This offense is still young. Go ahead and get another playmaker, because as great as the offense was last season, I think they still operated at a different level when they had a guy like Reynolds there.
Yeah. Let John Morton come in and throw a couple names on the table. The man knows receivers. You know what? Get a little youth infusion there. Get a little youth infusion in case what happens to JMO in the next year or two. Just build it up. Build it up. I think that's a position where they can be better. And they were pretty dang good last year with 2,000-yard receivers. I just think there's more. There's more.
Yeah,
I think more. The more options this offense has, the better. Not that Tim Patrick wasn't an option, but like a youth infusion could really help. In a youth infusion, I mean, there's no reason why Tim Patrick can't replicate or even be better than he was last year. But like, I don't know. That's where I'm thinking. We're heading to Indy on Monday. We are there through Saturday morning. Woo! Get used to Indy, buddy. This is year 6 for me. I spent a lot of freaking time in Indianapolis. On-field stuff starts Thursday, go through Sunday. Heavy Lions early start to the week. Prospect finish to the week. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to get out of here. This has been your Dungeon of Doom podcast, mlive.com/Lions. And don't be afraid to use that Dungeon of Doom at mlive.com email address for any questions, thoughts, topic concerns, what you want to see at the Combine. And we'll drop your name or maybe even feature your voice on the podcast next week or in the future.